Hello all, in this episode we are going to start a new chapter, that is the age of Mahajanapadas, based on the text of Upinder Singh. Before starting, it is happy to announce that we have started a new Telegram group in order to connect various aspirants. So you can join the Telegram group through the link provided in the description box. So the real name of this chapter is like this: Cities, Kings and Renaissance, North India between 600 and 300 BC. And the most important feature of this period is the rise of Mahajanapadas itself. That's why we simply refer this period as the Mahajanapadas. And this is between 600 and 300 BC. And in this module, we will be discussing about the sources in order to understand the major historical changes happened during this period. Regarding the sources, there are two important types of sources. One is literary sources. Another one is archaeological sources. And among literary sources, we will be discussing about major religious literary sources such as the Buddhist literary sources, Jainist, Hinduist or Brahmanical, and some other foreign sources. And later we will be discussing about archaeological sources. So we can start. Now we are going to understand the major literary sources, and the first one is the Buddhist literary texts or sources. So basically we can see the Pali canon of this Buddhist literature that is not a homogeneous source of history. And among them what we can see, there are some important works such as Sutta Pitaka, Vinaya Pitaka, Abhidhamma Pitaka. And among this Sutta Pitaka, there are 5 works, and among that the first 4 books such as the Digha Nikaya, Majjhima Nikaya, Samyukta Nikaya and Anguttara Nikayas. These 4 are written during this period. And that's why considered as one of the important sources for understanding the historical changes happened in this period. And along with the Sutta Pitaka, we have Vinaya Pitaka, and this entire Vinaya Pitaka, and these two were composed between 5th and 3rd centuries BC, and that's why considered as important historical sources. We can also see the Sutta Nipata that also belong to this period, but at the same time the Kudaka Nikaya meaning the 5th of this Sutta Pitaka. We have already mentioned 4 in this region, the Digha Nikaya, Majjhima, Samyutta and Anguttara Nikayas. They were written during this 5th and 3rd centuries BC period, but the Kudaka Nikaya and along with this Abhidhamma Pitaka, they were written in the later period, and that's why not considered as historical sources. The most important feature of this Buddhist source are, it mentions about the geographical regions of this composition, such as the middle Gangetic Valley, that is presently nowadays Bihar and eastern Uttar Pradesh. Jatakas, and Jatakas belongs to one of the 15 books of this Kudaka Nikaya. We have already mentioned that this Kudaka Nikaya that was written in the later period, in that consists of this Jatakas, and that belong to the 3rd centuries BC and 2nd centuries CE period, or between that period. So what we can see, that should not be considered as a historical source for constructing the early history of this period, that is between 6th century and 4th century BCE. So the most important works are the Sutta Pitaka. Among them we have 4 important Nikayas plus this Vinaya Pitaka. These are considered as important Buddhist sources in order to construct the history of this period. The next one is the Brahmanical text, in which we are going to first understand about these Puranas. So whether these Puranas are important in order to understand the history of this period or not. So basically what we can see, the Puranas, they provide useful information on dynastic history. We can see mentioning of many kings in Puranas. So it will be helpful for constructing the dynastic history of during this period. It is said that the later sections of the Puranic king list clearly have some historical basis. But at the same time, these Puranas, they create some problems or some limitations. One is, the Puranas, they contradict each other in places. So what we can see, Puranas mentions different conditions or cases in different places. And also the rulers of different lands are sometimes mixed up. So what we can see, sometimes kings of different dynasties are considered as the same one. So such kind of issues can be seen in Puranas. And the contemporary rulers, they may be described as successors, collateral rulers as direct descendants. And finally, what we can see, the certain kings known from other sources are not mentioned. So some of the kings are not mentioned in Puranas also. So Puranas, that cannot be considered as a complete source for understanding this period. Next is the epics. So among these Brahmanical texts, one we have already discussed about these Puranas. Next one is epics. We have 2 important epics such as Ramayana and Mahabharata. These two sources can be understood for understanding the comparative perspective on different cultural practices happened during this period. But we cannot use this Ramayana and Mahabharata as the most important valuable historical source due to their complexity in internal chronological order. So that's a limitation about epics such as Ramayana and Mahabharata. Next comes Grihya Sutras and Dharma Sutras. We have Dharma Shastra literature, and that consists of the Grihya Sutras and Dharma Sutras. And both these Grihya Sutras and Dharma Sutras that form the earliest segment of the vast corpus of this Dharma Shastra literature. In addition to these Dharma Sutras, we have the principal Shrauta Sutras and early Grihya Sutras as the important sources for this period. And it is according to Kay. And this Grihya Sutras and Shrauta Sutras belongs to the period between 800 and 400 BCE. Next and most important among these Brahmanic texts is that Panini's Ashtadhyayi. Panini, who was a grammarian who lived either in 5th or 4th century BC period in North India, and his most important work is Ashtadhyayi, and that is considered as the oldest surviving Sanskrit grammatical text in India. And Panini, he mapped out the grammatical rules of Sanskrit as it existed in his time, and his book marked the transition from the Vedic Sanskrit to classical Sanskrit. The most important feature of this Ashtadhyayi is that it's a grammatical work, but what we can see, in order to illustrate the rules of grammar, Panini he referred incidentally to many aspects of his time, such as his places, people, customs, institutions, coins, weights and measures, people's beliefs and practices. That's why what we can see, the historian used this Ashtadhyayi as one of the most important source of this 5th and 4th century BCE. And we have mentioned the Brahmanical texts such as these Puranas, epics, Grihya Sutras, Dharma Sutras, and Panini's Ashtadhyayi. All these texts are normative and cannot be treated as simple reflection of prevailing social practices. So all these works have some kind of limitations, and nor do they reflect identical point of view, meaning they have different point of view in different situations, and they have to be read as attempts of the Brahmanical tradition to engage with and regulate widely divergent practices. So this is about this Brahmanical text. Next is the Jain text, and the Jain text that can be used as a historical material for this period, and they include Jain canonical texts such as Agamas and some other such as Bhagavati Sutra and Parishta Parvan that is written by Hemachandra. And we can see a comparison between these Buddhist, Puranic and Chinese texts on the details of dynastic history of this period. There are more disagreement between each and every text than their agreement. So what we can see, Buddhist, Puranic and Jaina texts, they deliver different kind of ideas about this dynastic history of this period. This may be due to their incomplete or incorrect information. And what we can see, it is important to understand with the different perspectives. So what we can see, Buddhist, Puranic and Jaina texts that can be understood with a different perspective in order to understand about this dynastic history of this period. Regarding the foreign text, the most important thing is about Alexander's invasion in India. Around 326 BC, Alexander he invaded in the northwestern part of India. So what we can see, there are many historians and their opinion about this Alexander's military career in India, and such works written in Greek and Latin languages by some historians such as Arrian, Curtius Rufus, Diodorus Siculus, Plutarch and Justin. These works provide some kind of insight towards condition of this period. And what we can see, written in several centuries after the events they describe, they recount Alexander's invasion of India during this period, as we have said, and the political situation of this period, especially in the northwestern part of India, and Alexander's life and career. Such things can be understood from these works. Next, we are going to understand about these archaeological sources between this period 600 and 300 BC. The most important archaeological sources are, one is regarding this pottery, another one is regarding this coins. So we can look into that. In North India, what we can see, the focus is on the culture that is associated with the pottery called as NBPW, that is Northern Black Polished Ware. And this NBPW phase that is dated between 7th century BC and continued till 2nd century BC. And regarding this NBPW culture, what we can see, in some sites such as Punjab, Haryana, Rajasthan and Western UP, meaning in the northwestern part of India, this NBPW phase that is preceded by this PGW phase with an overlap between them. But at the same time in Eastern UP and Bihar, this NBPW phase that is preceded by this BRW phase, that is black and red wear phase. And as we said, along with this pottery culture NBPW, we can see some early series of punch marked coins of this time, and that marked the beginning of the use of money in the subcontinent. So such information also available during this period. And regarding this northern black polished ware, Bhupinder Singh says some important limitations. One is this pottery's name is very misleading because it is not only found in North India and it is not always black and nor it is necessarily polished. So there were some kind of limitation to this NBPW phase. So this is all about some important information regarding the sources, both of these literary and archaeological sources during this period of 6th century and 4th century BC. Hope the session was useful and you can connect through our Telegram channel. So that's all guys. Thank you.